was a book written by Rachel Deloche Williams, who was scammed by Anna. It's called My Friend Anna. I have listened to it on Scribd. It is very detailed. It kind of describes the atmosphere, or how would I say this? Like, it describes the feelings of Rachel very well, and I highly, highly recommend it. Recently, a Netflix limited show came out called Inventing Anna, and to be honest, I feel like the show is glamorizing Anna's actions a bit too much, so I don't know if I would really recommend it or not. Alright, so now let's just dive right into it, and at first I will start with Anna's childhood, which is important. So she was born in 1991 near Moscow in Russia. Her father was a truck driver and her mother a shop owner, so she was no heiress. She was described as being very smart. She had good grades, and people were saying that she could talk her way out of literally anything. However, she also mocked her classmates a lot, and so she had this intimidating aura around her. It was even said that the classmates were afraid of her. In 2007, her family moved to Germany and she went into a Catholic school where she was the odd one out. Back in Russia, she was fairly popular, but in Germany, suddenly the classmates mocked her. She had difficulties with the German language as well. Fashion was very important to her, and she went to a university school in London called Central St. Martin's, which is a famous school where a lot of famous designers went to. However, she dropped out at 21 and she moved to Paris, and she got a job as an intern at a French well-known magazine called Purple. And here she met a lot of artists, a lot of celebrities. She hanged out with them. However, she was aware that she didn't really belong in the society. I think she very desperately wanted to belong. She was going out to a lot of parties. She was posting all of these pictures on Instagram, and at some point she started telling people that she was extremely rich, and she would always keep it very vague. Like once she was a daughter of a Russian billionaire, then she said that she was actually from Germany. She was a German heiress And Anna just disappeared. And later on, I think she gave him the money in cash after months and months of him asking to be paid back. Okay, so in 2016, she, I think, moved to New York permanently, almost. Well, permanently, she was still on like a visa that didn't really allow her to stay permanent, but she wanted to stay there for a longer time. And she had this idea, like I said, for the club, and she wanted the club to be at the church mission house, which apparently is like an extremely luxe location. And she wanted to get a loan for $22 million. Okay, so she started to pretend that she is a German heiress that is worth 60 million euros. And of course, she didn't have the money, she was completely broke. During this time, she also made a new best friend called Rachel Deloche Williams. And at first I thought that Rachel was also like a trust fund baby, super rich, but that's not true. Rachel worked for a magazine. I think she was like a photographer, or she worked in that department, and she was pretty underpaid for New York standards. And she didn't come from a rich family at all. And she met Anna at a club, and she was just really mesmerized by her, because Anna didn't look like a typical heiress. She never wore makeup. Her hair was always messy, and yeah, she kind of just stood out, I would say. Okay, now let's talk about how Anna wanted to secure the $22 million loan. Okay, so she first went to a city national bank, and she forged these documents that she had millions in her European bank accounts. And at some point, they even talked to her Swiss banker handling her money, which of course was just Anna posing as this banker. And she was turned down because the bank realized that these documents just seemed a little fishy. So then she went to Fortress Investment Group, and she presented them these same documents, and they actually agreed. But they had one condition, and that was that Anna had to get $100,000 for like an application, basically, that was also to be used for legal fees associated with the application. So Anna didn't have that kind of money. So where did she get those? Well, she actually went back to City National Bank, and she asked for $100,000 worth of a loan, and she got it. I don't understand how, but she got it. And she promised that she would send the money from the European bank account. So she gave all of the $100,000 to Fortress, and they began the process basically. And at some point they wanted to send a team that would fly to Switzerland to actually talk to the Swiss banker handling her money. And once Anna realized that, she immediately pulled out of the deal, and they returned her the leftover money that wasn't used for the legal fees yet. So that was around $55,000. Well, what did she do with this money? Do you think that she would be be responsible and give this money to City National, who still was waiting for the loan to be paid of the $100,000. Of course not. She started spending the money like crazy. She started buying all of these expensive designer clothes. She was doing really expensive hair treatments. She would always get her nails done in like the most expensive salon. She was living in the most expensive hotels. And during this time, Rachel was hanging out with her, and Rachel couldn't afford all of these, procedures and hair and everything. So Anna offered to pay for her, and she would spend a lot of money on her. Now, some people say that this is actually a manipulation tactic, because at some point Rachel felt like she was in debt to Anna, and this will be important later on. So Anna lived in a very expensive hotel, and of course the hotel wanted to be paid at some point. At first she lied and she said that she's a personal friend of the hotel's owner, but at some point the hotel was just like, okay, we need the money, and it was around $30,000. And of course she didn't have the money, because at this point she spent almost everything from the $55,000. She would always promise them that there's a wire transfer coming from Germany, there were some problems with it, yada yada yada. This was her favorite lie to use, that there was a wire transfer coming from a foreign country. And so of course she didn't have the money, and she did this really old scam, very famous one apparently. I don't exactly know how this works, so I wrote it down. So she would write bank checks from one account to another, and then she would withdraw the money as soon as it posted, but right before the check bounced. And this way she was able to send $30,000 to the hotel, and also she withdrew another $40,000 to spend. Apparently, like she forged checks in like $160,000. I don't understand how this works, but yeah. So during this time she also wanted to go to Nebraska for a shareholder meeting of a company, and she took a private jet that costed $35,000. And she would always say that a wire transfer was on the way, and she would show them these forged documents of the overseas accounts. a real or fake name, that was supposed to make videos of Anna so she would know what it's like to be filmed at all times, because she was planning on making a documentary about how the club, the private club, came to be. If you remember, like the Soho club, Anna Delvey Foundation. Okay, so however, Anna didn't spend a dime on this trip, even though she promised to pay for the flights and for the vacation itself. So the way she would do this is that on the day she was supposed to leave, she told Rachel to book the tickets through a travel agent. And she was always like aloof, and so Rachel didn't really question it, because she thought, oh, she's just rich, this is like how rich people travel, I guess. Now, of course, there were some problems with Anna's debit card, and so she used her credit card, and Rachel noticed that her name was actually Anna Sorokin Delvey, so she thought that was a little strange, but again, she didn't say anything. Anna said that there was a problem with her spending limit and told Rachel that the airline wanted to cancel the reservation unless the tickets were bought within 10 minutes. And Rachel believed her, and so she paid for the flight tickets, and Anna was just like, oh, I'll just wire transfer the money to you like right away after, there will be no issues. Don't worry about it. So they went to Morocco, to Marrakech. When they arrived to Morocco, Marrakech, they didn't pay again like until a few days later, almost when they were supposed to leave, I think. I'm not exactly sure when, but Anna would give the hotel her credit card, and of course the credit card kept declining and declining, and it became really tense because the hotel kind of felt like they're scammers, and so they started to intimidate Rachel and Anna. I think the other people, the trainer, the personal trainer, she left already, and I'm not sure about the videographer, but there were no other people around really in the story, so I don't know. And these hotel staff, they would like corner them, they would stood in the hallway, they would block the exit out of their rooms or out of the building, like they were really pushy, let's say. And at some point, Rachel was of course really worried. She was worried that she is going to be arrested, and so Anna told her, why don't you just give them like a card that they can put on hold, and then like everything will be resolved and I will pay. Now, you can probably guess where this was going. So Anna gave them, I think, her personal credit card at first. Then she went to this home of Yves Saint Laurent for a private tour. I think the home is called Villa Oasis, and you have to make a donation of $1,600 to even enter. And of course Anna didn't pay for that either. So like the details of this are a little foggy, it's not that important, but basically the guide from the Villa Oasis had to go with Rachel to get her personal credit card from the hotel. Also, the hotel staff wouldn't let her leave with her card, so she had to give them some sort of form of payment. So she gave them her company credit card. You probably can guess where this is going. So she went with the guide back to the Villa Oasis. She tried to pay with the $1,600. The card just kept declining and declining and declining. And then she called the bank, and guess what happened? The hotel actually charged her credit card, even though they said they wouldn't. Apparently, like, she also had to sign like a document that said that this was only to be like, this card was supposed to be put This is really like a complicated situation. Long story short, a portion was charged on her personal credit card. I think they maxed it out, and I guess the leftovers were charged with the company's credit card. Okay, again, like Anna was just very nonchalant about it. She was just like, don't worry about it, I'll pay you back like very soon. Of course she didn't, but anyways, Rachel left Morocco because she had to go to a business trip in France. Anna stayed there. She went to a bunch of other expensive hotels. Again, she wouldn't pay for anything. At some point, the Moroccan police were threatening to arrest her. I think they didn't, but they just put her on an airport and just kind of left her there, and she had no means to go back home. So Anna called the personal trainer, Casey, and she asked her if she could pay for the flight to America. And then she apparently asked for a expensive seat, like it was either like business or first class seat. Like imagine the audacity of someone, like somebody's offering to get you home from a foreign country safely, and then you have the audacity to ask for like a business class seat or even a first class seat. It's just anyways, so after that, Rachel was in deep trouble with the bank because the bank wanted her to pay this amount, of course, and so she kept pressuring Anna. Anna would always be like nonchalant about it. At some point she would forge documents that a wire transfer was coming from her bank account from Europe. Of course, there was no money, and you know, Rachel, like, just like imagine the situation. I feel like people are kind of underestimating. I'll get to this in the end, but this amount, like there was like I think $62,000 debt for Rachel. This was more than she made in a year, and she was more than broke. Like she had no money to pay for rent, for food, for anything. I can't even imagine the stress of that. So Rachel started having doubts about Anna, and she did a background check on her and realized that some things were just not right, because she talked to a friend of Anna back in Germany, and that friend said that she is a daughter of a Russian billionaire, even though Anna was supposed to be from Germany, right? I think at some point Anna sent Rachel $5,000, which didn't really help much. And during this time, also Anna would stay in like very expensive hotels in New York City. So there were two hotels she stayed at. At the first one, she had a bill for $11,000 that she didn't pay, and then another hotel, she didn't exactly have to pay for the stay, but she somehow had a bill for $5,000 for minibar, snacks, and drinks, and the hotel just threw her out. How do you even make a bill like that? I don't understand. Also, at some point, Anna had a lunch for 6 hours in Parker Meridian Hotel. She couldn't pay the bill, and the hotel actually called the police, and Anna was charged with 3 counts of misdemeanor theft of services. During this time, Anna admitted to Rachel that she actually owed like $1.5 million of dollars to her bankers and to lawyers. And you know, Rachel was just like, why don't you talk to your parents? I'm pretty sure they would help you out if you are in such a trouble. And now with, you know, with the law as well. But Anna just said no, like they wanted me to sort this out myself, which I guess makes sense. Also, Anna told Rachel that she was supposed to get millions of dollars on her 26th birthday, but her parents didn't really want to give her the money because she was not responsible with the money, which I guess makes my life is in shambles. I really need this debt to be paid right now. At this point, it has been months from since that Moroccan trip, and Anna didn't really care at all. She didn't care about the consequences for her. At this point, she was charged already with the 3 counts of the theft of services. She didn't care about that. They wrote an article about her, and she only cared about how she looked to the public, and she didn't care about the consequences for her so-called friends. And this just made Rachel extremely angry, and she went to a Manhattan district attorney, and she told them, like, hey, I think this girl is actually a con artist. And she heard from them very soon, and they said, I think you're right, we also think she is a con artist. And they started to build a case on her. Rachel was extremely helpful. She would basically take screenshots of everything, give them as much detail as she could. She was extremely helpful, and she wanted to assist the investigation as much as she could. Then Anna didn't show up for her court date, and the DA's office wanted to track her down. It was clear that she was hiding somewhere, they just didn't know where. And so Rachel actually reached out to Anna, and she wanted to reunite with her friend. And it was clear that she was on the West Coast somewhere, but it wasn't clear where. And Anna was very, very careful and almost paranoid at this point to not really reveal anything. But at some point she did. So she said that she is in Malibu in a rehab facility, and this was kind of smart of her, I'll give her that, because according to law, rehab facilities cannot tell any information about their clients, even if the client is actually residing there or not. So they couldn't give any information to the police, and it would be extremely difficult for the police to arrest her there as well. Rachel later on figured out which facility she was at, because of course it was the most expensive one. And I think it's called Passages Malibu, something like that. And Rachel told Anna that she would like to meet with her for lunch, and Anna agreed. And if you actually read the book, Rachel still felt really bad about this, because she felt like she was betraying her friend. She still kind of saw her as a friend at this point. And read the book for more details, or listen to it like I did as an audiobook. Okay. And and also before the lunch, Anna asked Rachel to please buy bottles of water and fill them with vodka instead, so she could bring it back to the facility, which interesting. So on October 3rd, 2017, Anna was arrested in the morning as soon as she left the facility. So she apparently stolen $275,000 through cons, and she wanted to scam more people at this point, of course. And Anna pled not guilty to the charges of larceny, but she was sent to prison. Then on May 28th, 2018, an article was written by Jessica Pressler for a digital magazine, The Cut, where they laid out all of her scams, everything, they revealed everything about her, and this story went absolutely viral, and it was actually the #1 most read story of the year. I remember even I have heard about it in 2018. My camera just died. Let's finish this quickly. So, 11 days after the article was published, Netflix announced that they will do a series about her, and they paid Anna $30,000. On the first day of jury selection, her legal team bought her like a sensible outfit from H&M, but a stylist, Anastasia Walker, reached out to her and she offered her services for the rest of the trial. And Anna really made the trial almost like, she made it out to be like a circus. She was wearing expensive designer pieces, and she deliberately, the stylist deliberately understated her clothing so she would appear more innocent. Anna's lawyer tried to paint a picture of her of a millennial that only took a few shortcuts to be successful, and apparently she was always determined to pay everyone back. And there's this famous quote that the lawyer said, "There's a little bit of Anna in all of us." Now, the prosecutor, of course, didn't agree, and they said that Anna knowingly stole from banks, hedge funds, and friends to fund a lifestyle that she thought she deserved. So she was found guilty on 8 counts against her. She was sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison, fined $22,000, and ordered to pay a restitution of almost $200,000. Netflix, after that, signed a new contract for life rights, which means that they would have exclusive rights to make this story for her lifetime. I think that's what it means. And she would also assist on the production. And Anna was paid $320,000. So there is a law that prohibits criminals to profit from their crimes, but it's really up to the jury. And I think they decided that the money needs to be available for restitution first, but I think after that she probably received some of the money as well, especially like the later payments, but I'm not exactly sure. Rachel couldn't claim any of it because Anna wasn't found guilty on the count of manipulating her. However, American Express credited all of her money to her account, and she was able to kind of put it behind her. And she wrote the book, like I told you. Anna was granted early release in February 2021, and she immediately moved to a chic Manhattan hotel, and she said she would write a memoir about it. A month after she was released, she was taken by immigration authorities because apparently she is a danger to society, and she was overstaying her visa. Until this day, I think that she is in still the custody. It's called ICE custody, like the immigration custody. Also, HBO bought the rights to adapt the story of Rachel Williams, who was the former friend of Anna. Till this day, Anna claims that she never really wanted to steal money from anybody, that she only wanted to start her art club. And she also said some I'll say outrageous quotes, such as that the prison was a waste of time and yada yada yada, and she feels absolutely no remorse for what she did. So, what do you think of this case? I'm gonna be honest, as I really took a deep dive into this case, I expected people to be on the victim's side, on Rachel's side. What I found really surprising is that Anna basically is seen as this Robin Hood character that was only stealing from the rich, which is not true. And also she has this almost like a cult following around her of just very knows, I think even Netflix said something along the lines of like that Rachel was Anna's greatest creation or something like that. Like, can you imagine like going through a very traumatic event where your life is basically in shambles because of a certain person who committed a crime, and then someone has the audacity to call you that criminal's creation? I think that's just mind-boggling to me. I don't really know what to think of this case. Let's be honest, I think that Anna has this cult following only because she is seen as a young, attractive woman. I think there was even a study that said that society perceives female criminals in a different way than male criminals. I don't know. I just think that if Rachel went through something extremely traumatic and then she was able to make money of it, good for her. I find it strange how Anna almost became a celebrity at this point. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. You may have a different opinion on the case. Also, a lot of people are saying that if you're dumb enough to be scammed, you deserve to be scammed, and I strongly disagree with that statement, especially if it's someone close to you, like a friend. There's one thing to be scammed maybe by like the typical internet scams. There's another thing to be scammed by a friend that claims that they will pay you for everything for the vacation and then just kind of ruins your life. Yeah, I don't really understand why Anna is being so glamorized in the media, because to me she's just a regular scammer, but I digress. If you know about any other interesting case, let me know down in the comments, because I really like actually making these like true crime videos. I'm going to go ahead and end this video now. Let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments down below, and